Hey guys, welcome to the Pilot Jam for Thursday, September 29th. Man, we are quickly rounding third and heading for home on this year. Fourth quarter, can you believe that? I mean, October. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's been a crazy couple of days in Florida. Heard any good jokes about the weather lately? Tell you what, man. Tell you what, we were okay. I know a lot of people were checking on me on Discord. We were fine. We did have some wind and some rain come through, but more importantly, there were areas of the state that were not so lucky. I mean, we were very fortunate based on where we were. I had a tree branch down, and our internet was a little flaky for, yesterday for a couple of hours. It was up and down a couple of times, but for me, it was, we were just lucky. That's all I can say. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the Pilot Jam, but I want to start out by welcoming Ken. Ken, not only is it his first time on the Pilot Jam, he was first. So what's up, vets? Where are the veterans? Ken is a first-time Pilot Jam, and he beat everybody in. Mr. Skyrider, how you doing? Glad you can make it. Dragon Killer, Patrick, hello. Steven, hello. How are you? Richard Webb, how are you, my friend? Glad you can make it. Jeff H., good day from down under. Welcome to the Pilot Jam. Bill Cox is here. Boy, Bill. That's 2 weeks in a row, isn't it? I'll tell you what. And my phone is sitting here talking to me. I got all kinds of stuff beeping and babbling on the phone. Not anymore. Hobie Kenobi is here. Hopefully you're doing well, Shane, and got through the weather okay. I know hopefully, maybe they got your power back on. I know Hobie's power was out for a little while, so he was in an area where the actual path of the hurricane wasn't too bad, but as it goes with these things, even if you're not subject to the high water, and we're not where I am, you still get these flash floods. It's kind of crazy, and you get these power outages and tornadoes that get a little nuts. So anyway, I hope that got cleaned up for you real quick, Hobie, and you're back in business in terms of power at least. So let's see, who else do we have left here? Hobie, I got Hobie. Philip Jang from Australia is here. How you doing, Philip? William Tan, yep, I survived. William, I made it. Thanks for checking in. Rudy Ortiz says, hello, Bill. How you doing? Glad you can make it. And Rudy, glad you can make it as well. I escaped. Yeah, I did escape the worst. We were lucky. Normally with the hurricanes where I live, it's just not that big of a deal. But yeah, it's pretty ugly out there. I can tell you that. It's kind of like the zombie apocalypse, man. Everything's shut down. The friggin' restaurants are shut down. The fuel stations are shut down. Everything's shut down. There's very little open out there right now, and the authorities are asking everyone to stay off the roads because they've got work to do, which makes sense. I get it. They've got things they've got to do to be able to get to people and whatnot. So yeah, we can appreciate that. Freddie, I survived the Hurricane Ian and all I got was lousy RCV. Dude, a t-shirt. I was going to give you a t-shirt until that comment, Fred. How do you like me now? Let's see. I can't read that name, but he says hello. It's an Asian name. I can't read it. Maybe you can pronounce it for us. Shane, hi from Buffalo. How you doing, Shane? I guess that thing is heading your guys' way up north now. It's gonna hook off to the Atlantic, and then it's gonna come back inland a little bit too. Anthony says, to all you guys in Florida, Australia is praying for the lost souls. You and our prayers. Well, I appreciate that, Anthony. Thanks. So yeah, let's we'll cover. Let's just take a moment just to be. I want to be respectful, so I'm gonna go ahead and flip over to the workspace. Is the workspace? No, it's the big camera. It's this one. This is the one that I wanted to pull up. I'm not gonna bore you guys and make you watch a bunch of stuff. I'm not gonna do that to you, but I did want you to see, I've been watching the news, and there were some really devastating impacts. I mean, and I do want to just take a moment to have a little bit of reverence for people that lost their lives, because there were a lot of deaths. For whatever reason, people, they didn't get out of there, and so there was some loss of life. The property is rough. It's rough to lose the property, but to me, it's kind of hard seeing this in the state where I live, because it looks like a war zone. And I know, because I've been in a war zone. So then this was another one that I captured. Again, I'm not going to wear you guys out with a bunch of pictures, but I thought I would share with you a couple of the ones that made the most impression on me, because this is common. What we're seeing out there, it's common. There's a lot of this out there. So, all I can say is that I hope my fellow Floridians, whatever they're going through out there, I hope it gets over for them quickly, and that they're able to recover from this. So yeah, it's very unfortunate. So yeah, I feel very blessed that I was able to not suffer the consequences that we're seeing for the people on the beach saw. So yeah, really tough situation for those people. My heart goes out to them. It's it's a human thing, and whatever your thoughts are about people, everyone out there, what my life lessons that I learned when I was in the Middle East, actually talking to people from the Middle East, was that they're a lot like us. They just want good things for their kids. They want a home. They want healthcare. They want food. They want education for their kids. They want their kids to have a nice warm bed to sleep in at night. They're not different than us from that respect. And when I see this, that human impact really hits me hard, because you can see what, these people have a lot that they're going to have to deal with. They're going to have a lot to overcome. So anyway, that's it. I don't want this to be a downer. This is supposed to be a relief from the downer. So let's get back on topic. We'll spend a few minutes talking about the week in review, and then we'll get into a little bit of material. Of course, I was distracted with the hurricane. We were kind of doing a little bit of prep and worried about getting things like water and fuel and getting ourselves in a situation. But we'll talk a little bit about some of the material I was able to get out, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up, and hopefully we'll have a good session tonight. So first up was the must-have tools, supplies, and gadgets. I did that video because I spend an inordinate amount of time reviewing things, and I thought about it. When I went back, and I had the thing that triggered it was I had to buy some battery pads, and I thought to myself, out of all the things that I go through on the channel, I'm constantly buying stuff from Amazon. I buy a lot of gear from Amazon. So I thought about it, and I thought, for things that I make repeat buys on, things that I go back to the well on, I thought that might be a good video to share and, let you guys take a look at things that I actually go back to the well on. Bill says that video cost me money. I know, man. It's same with me. It's same with me. Hobie says I ordered a bunch of stuff because of, yeah. Well, so anyway, the video, that first video, the must-have tools, supplies, and gadgets, actually got some traction, and it's got some good views, and I think people were interested in it. So I decided to do another one, and I talked a little bit about tools. And I need to do this. I don't think I did it. I will put a link for this one in the description, but let me just bring up the big camera real quick. I just want to show this to you guys. Let me put the pictures away for a moment. And I want to show this one to you guys. This thing is fairly new. I've only had it for a little while, but I've been using it quite a bit. And I'm going to tell you right now, man, this does wonderful things for my OCD because of that little backstop. And I've been putting fairly heavy gauge wire in here. I put some 12 gauge wire in here and dropped it in and squeezed it. And that little backstop, man, I'll tell you what, it gives me the perfect cut every single time. It strips the exact right amount of sheathing off, and it's perfect. I love it. It's great for soldering XT90 connectors on heavy gauge wires or XT60s on smaller gauge wires. But yeah, the only thing I don't like about them is that they have this marking where they show red, yellow, and blue, and it's really pretty bad, because if you look at it, the idea behind these different sizes is that they're supposed to have different gaps, and you can look at it and see that gap, the only one that's really different at all is yellow. That's the only one that's different. So that's kind of a cheapie. That's no good. That's not so good. I mean, you could still crimp it. You just have to know when to stop, right? You have to know that if you're crimping those types of crimp-on connectors, where you stop. You don't squeeze the living daylights out of it. You have to use a little judgment, but don't rely on the color coding on there. That is absolutely useless. The guillotine cutoff is fine, but I'll tell you what, man, what I really like about this is this thing, and you don't have to use it. You can turn it down if you don't want to use it. You can just get it out of the way. So if you need to, and that's another thing that this thing does really well, is it'll strip the center away too. So if you feed the wire through and give it a squeeze, it'll separate the middle of the wire for you if you need to solder something in line. So yeah, I really kind of like this tool. It's been working out very well for me. And I'll put a link in the description of this video if you want to check it out, but it's only like $11. Now, I don't know how it's going to stand the test of time. That much I don't know. This was not a repeat buy for me, but yeah, that's a cool little deal, man. I like this one so far. It's doing good things for my OCD. It lets me strip those wires and have a degree of consistency on how much material I strip off, and I really like it so far. So Let's see. Umbrella Corp says, good day. How you doing? Bill says the satellite image was scary. It was, man, for sure. That was some scary stuff, man. The whole video, the whole thing, even just watching the storm track was kind of scary. Jeff Bezos. I wish Jeff Bezos loved me. He doesn't even know who I am. I wouldn't mind being his stepson, though. I can tell you that. Let's see. The Good Life 62 says, born and raised in New Orleans, lived there for 43 years, left after Katrina, been in upstate South Carolina. Probably smart, man. That Katrina was a disaster, too. Oh, stop, John. I don't know. Elias, what are you talking about, man? Are you talking about the tool? Get one. These are cool. They're cool little tools. I like them. Ken says, I have that same stripper, but it tends to clog when doing... Yes, I will. That's something that I just found out today. I was working with it today, working on the slick. I was doing wiring for the slick. And what happens is when you strip it, the little part that you strip winds up getting stuck in that spot. So you wind up kind of cracking it against your palm to get it out there. That is the one downside to using the backstop so far. It definitely does do that. Maybe a little silicone spray in there would be a good idea. I don't know. But yeah, that is true. That's a true statement. I noticed that too. It gets clogged up in there. You gotta work on getting that out. So let's see. Tens, but it's nice otherwise. I just repeated taps on the bent. Yep, that's what I do. I have a proper ratchet color crimper. Oh yeah, well I'm not surprised, Elias. All the electrical wiring you do, I'm not surprised. Oliver joined. He says, good evening, ladies. How you doing, Oliver? Curry Kitten, hey, just stopping in. Hey, Wayne, glad you could join us. Hey, Wayne's another great YouTube channel, guys. If you guys haven't visited Wayne's channel, Curry Kitten on YouTube, check him out. He's got a really good channel. He's the guy who kind of is responsible for getting me off the ground, so to speak, when it came to quads. So just make sure you visit Wayne's YouTube channel if you haven't done that yet. Thanks for popping in, Wayne. Hobie says, hey guys, thanks for the joint jam. Make sure you hit the like button on the way in. Appreciate that. Where's Robert? I don't know where Robert is. Yeah, that's a good question, Four Eyes. I don't know where he is. A little lube fixes everything, says Bill. Yeah. Thanks for the plug. Anytime, Wayne, anytime. I'm always glad to help the small guys out, right? We got to help each other out. Evening, everyone, says Bill Higgins from soon-to-be soggy Savannah. Yeah, it's coming your way, man. It's coming your way. Keep your head down out there, Bill. It was nothing to joke about. We just talked about that for a little while, but... Anyway, so to get back on track, I did the week in review, and I might got the wrong thing up here, don't I? I do. Let me bring the right thing on. There we go. Week in review. So week in review. Let's finish that off. You guys responded to the gadgets, so while I did the tools video too, and the top 10 tools, and the reason I did that video, aside from the wire strippers, this was like the only thing in that video that I didn't have a lot of experience with, but everything else in there I did. And I'll tell you guys, if you don't have a good soldering station, look at that Hakko FX888D, man. That thing is just, it's so good. I've been using that thing for 6 years. I use it a lot, and it's just been a really good tool for me. It's one of those deals where I kind of hesitated to buy it because of the price, but one of my buddies always used to tell me, buy the best cry once. And he wasn't wrong. You know, I used to struggle with some of the cheaper irons, getting them hot enough, the tips would wear out. They'd get frustrating. The desktop holders for the soldering iron weren't all that great. So when I finally got that Hakko, man, it was just like being in a different level altogether when it came to soldering. So, and even if you don't like the Hakko for whatever reason, there are plenty of other very solid stations out there, but look for a good one. You know, that really makes a difference when it comes to soldering. And as much as, you know, I guess it depends on how much you do. I do a lot, so I got tired of playing with the cheap ones. Anyway, next up was the label issue, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. I don't want to get too much into that, but the labels issue, I covered that in a video. That was a very popular video. I had a lot of views on that one. I think 3,000 views in about a day. So that there was some interest in that. And of course, the developers are working on it. In fact, I've got a firmware, a custom build on here right now, and I'll show you what they did. So that was my intention, is to give you a look at what they cleaned up. Then of course the pilot jam, that was the last video of the week. And again, we were a little bit short this week because of the hurricane, you know, it kind of sidetracked us a little bit, but that's that. Let's see what's going on with the comments. Robert had too much maple and went into hiding. Yeah, he might be in a maple syrup-induced coma. Right, Oliver? He may be. Hobie says Robert will probably be lurking. He's dealing with some family. Uh-oh. Well, I hope that's nothing serious. Freddie says you need to pass that, Hobie. Okay. Hello from Lincoln, Nebraska. Happy flying. Hey, Don, how you doing? Glad you can make it. Let's see. Okay. A little bit of chit chat. So let's get into some content. And what I'm going to do is bring up the big camera. Let me see here. I got to flip back because I want to see what order I put things in. I have an order of operations here. So Hurricane Ian, we already covered that. Labels. Okay. Labels are up first. Let's get into that labels. So there are a couple things I wanted to do here. I'm going to go to the workspace instead because I want to bring up some content and show you guys in the browser what's going on the radio. Because in label, I like to try, when I do the generic videos, I like show people, how to fish a little bit. But with you guys on the Pilot Jam, what I like to do is get into a little bit more detail with you, to kind of get you a little bit of a deeper look under the covers. So not to say it's exclusive to the Pilot Jam, but I do like to give you guys a little bit of a deeper look. So first thing I want to do is show you, I plugged in my radio, and this has got the custom build. Okay, so this has a custom firmware build. And the reason I'm showing this to you is because I think this is directionally where they're going to resolve that labels issue. I think directionally this is what we should expect to see. So what I want to show you is we're going to go into, now, if you don't watch my Edge and OpenTX videos, you may not know this, but I'm going to show you some things under the covers. So in the models directory, the first thing I want to do is point out that my models directory is much more cleaned up, and you might also notice I've got some order now. It looks like everything is kind of renumbered. So I'm not exactly sure if they renumbered it. I'm pretty sure they did, but I wouldn't swear to that. But it looks like they renumbered everything. But here's the new folder down here at the bottom. Let me, I got to scroll this window so you guys can see the bottom of the window here. There we go. So here, this is the new one, unused. Unused, if you look in the unused folder, there's a whole bunch of model files. Now, in theory, what they did is they looked at the models.yaml file, and let's see, did they get rid of it? Did they get rid of models.yaml? It looks like they did. I wonder if it's in here. Nope, it's not in there. I didn't actually check. There it is. They did. They moved it to unused, models.yaml. So what they did in the PR that they're working on was they did an evaluation, and they said, we're going to look through the models.yaml file, and if we see the model name, model1.yaml, then we're going to keep it in the directory. So what that means is if they see model1.yaml, they're going to leave that one in this folder, in the models folder. But as they scroll through, if they don't see it, if they come down to one where there's a file name or a file name like model177.yaml that's not referenced in the models.yaml file, that's going to cause it to be put in the unused folder. So they really have a habit of not, they don't like to delete stuff from your radio, because if you need it, they don't want to be the ones responsible for deleting it. So what they're doing is they create this unused. I did not create this unused folder. The video did, or sorry, not the video, the radio. The radio created this unused folder. But when I loaded that custom firmware up, it created the unused folder. It scanned my models.yaml file, and it found everything that wasn't referenced in here and put it in the unused folder. So I think directionally that's where they're heading. And, just hang out though, what I would really suggest is if you want to test, back up your SD card, do a little testing, that's fine. And let them know what you find out. Okay. But when it comes to running this in production, and you'll note this is my production radio, but the only reason I have it on here is because this one gives me a great opportunity to test, because I have a ton of models on this one, but I have a backup, and before I go fly again, I will be going back to that backup, right? I'll be restoring my backup. So I don't want you to think that I'm preaching and not following my own advice. I will go back to my backup and go back to 2.7.1. I won't use RC release candidates on a production radio. That's just not a great idea. So anyway, directionally, that's where they're going. And then I think the next thing that I'm hoping to see is this folder called deleted, so that from not going forward, if you go into your radio on the radio screen itself and delete a model, that it'll get put in this deleted folder, which should help avoid any confusion going forward. So I think that's the plan. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a look to let you know that after that video, The main reason I did that video was because I really just wanted to help make sure that people didn't go, oh, RC1, that's good enough, and then go run with that in production, load it up, and see, you know, some crazy number of models on the radio, which is exactly what happened on mine when I did the test. And I said, wait, there's a lot of duplication in here, and that was the issue. So all I can say is hang out. You know, if you want to test, that's great. If you want to get onto the GitHub and open up issues and report what you're seeing, that's fine. You know, I would encourage you to do that. And they can use the help. You know, that's how they make the radio better, or how they make the firmware better, is by getting that help from you guys. And by the way, you know, just in case you've been sleeping under a rock and you haven't seen labels, here's a look at the label system, and it is very effective. I mean, it's quite effective. So the idea is that you can create labels and choose to apply multiple labels to an airplane. The example I used in the labels videos, think of a model as a slip of paper. In the old category method, that slip of paper could either be in your favorites drawer, or it could be in your 3D drawer, but that paper couldn't be in both. With labels, you can assign both. So you can see right now I've got 3D planes selected, but if I go ahead and say click on favorites, what it'll do is further filter my 3D planes down to my game bird and my laser. So just a very cool little feature, and I'm really looking forward to this one being operational. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. So that's the deal on labels. If you'd never seen it before, I wanted to give you a quick look at what that looked like. So that's labels, and I'm going to check comments, and we'll move on. So let's see. Hobie says, "Where's Precious?" I don't know. Where is Precious? I think Precious is put away because I was actually doing work on the slick today, so I had to get the radio. Kind of worked out, and actually, if you look, there's the slick. So I was doing work on. Well, you know that, Hobie. You saw me. By the way, Rob, you guys, man, Rob saved me from having. Have you ever blown a capacitor? It's kind of amusing because it's a little shocking because it's like a firecracker and it blows paper everywhere. And Rob basically saved me from blowing a cap on my desk today. To make a very long story short, I was working on the arrangement that I was going to use for the slick, and I thought that I would use one of these converter boards. So my intention was to plug a Express LRS receiver into the side and use PWM conversion. And here you can see I've got a series connector, and this series connector, by the way, leads us into the next conversation, so it's kind of apropos. And then Rob, he said, hey, that's going to blow up. And the reason it's going to blow up is because that capacitor is only rated for 35 volts. And I'm going to be plugging about 50 into this because it's two 6S's in series. So 50 volts. And then the other problem, of course, is the board is only rated to 36 volts as well. BAT Plus right there is only rated to 36 volts. So, you know, I didn't check the spec, and I'm glad that I posted my picture because Rob's like, oh, hey, cool, fireworks. And so he saved me from blowing up the capacitor and probably the board. And if you've ever blown up a capacitor and you weren't expecting it, it's a little shocking. So anyway, we missed that kind of excitement, but I had to rearrange my thought process on what I'm going to do for the slick. And that's what I've been working on today. So that was that. So I'll go back to the desktop, and I think that actually is a good segue into the next topic, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check. It is series connection. How about that? So let me check the comments real quick, and we'll move on to the series connections. Ken says, almost hate to say this, but an undo might be a nice feature. Yeah, I think they're going to use an undo, and I think initially that'll probably be a future configuration. So the idea was that and that's really what the soft delete was. And when they did in the old way with categories, what they were doing, Ken, was they were simply removing it. It was kind of like a DOS file allocation table entry. They just removed it from the FAT, right? They just removed it from the table of contents, but it was still on. It was still in the book, right? It was still on the SD card. And the idea was that in case you messed up, you could go back and add the entry into your models.yaml or models.txt or whatever. So I think that was the idea. And in the comments on the issue, I actually suggested that, while I think it's a good idea to maintain the recover option, I don't think it's a great idea to make it a manual recover option. So maybe on the radio, there should be some kind of undelete feature. So I don't think we'll see that in 2.8 though. I don't think that's going to happen in 2.8. Maybe a future release issue is something they can do. So that's what I'm hoping for. Elias says maybe the undo can't be done because it holds up memory to do that. No, I think, Elias, I think they can, and I don't know. I think they will, but I don't know. I'm not committing them, just to be clear. But I think they were kind of talking about it. And my recommendation again was, I don't think if there is an undo, that it should be manual file movement, because that can get a lot of people in a lot of trouble. I mean, you know, let's face it, not everybody keeps their stuff up to date, right? So let's see, Hobie, if you guys want to help John out, join him on Patreon. Thanks for that, Hobie. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, if you guys, and I do want to do a call out to the patrons. Thanks for the reminder, Hobie. And I do want to say thanks to the patrons. We had some new ones this week, so you new patrons, appreciate you joining and helping out. And I want to point out that when I do get people supporting the channel on Patreon, that money goes back in the channel. That doesn't go into John's wallet, that goes in the channel. And I use it to do things that I need to do on the channel, like buy these, you know, servo arms and servos and these big ESCs and all the electronics and all the different things that I do. That's how I do it. So I appreciate you guys that are willing to step up and help me. The channel is not self-funded yet. I'm kind of pushing in that direction, but we're not quite there yet. So anyway, I appreciate you guys that have joined me. And if you like the content you get on the channel, you can go to patreon.com/RC video reviews. And I have a tier for $3 a month, so like a cup of coffee a month, if you like the content you get here. And I do put the money back into the channel, that's for sure. So thanks for the reminder on that, Hobie. And thanks to all you patrons that do help out. Bill says that wouldn't have been good. No, because Bill, I would have lost the card probably for sure. Fried circuits on the card, which are bad, and of course the cap blowing. They're alarming. They're alarming. Ken says, haha, electric caps go bang. Back in 1989, I still remember it. Yeah, they do, man. They pop. And they're a little. It's a little alarming if you're not expecting it. It can be really alarming. Okay, so let's see. I think the next topic I wanted to get into was the series connection. So good. Let's go back into the big camera. I'm going to set the radio aside for the moment, and I want to show you guys a couple of things. So, you know, in the past, you guys probably know about parallel connections, right? A parallel connection is where you connect the positives and the negatives together in parallel, and what happens is you boost your capacity, right? You boost your milliamp hour capacity. It's like when you put things in parallel, it's like a bigger gas tank. When you put things in series, which is what this is, you're not increasing the capacity, you're increasing the voltage. So your voltage becomes additive. So the first thing I thought I would show you, and I'm kind of upset that I heat shrunk it without doing some video, but it's a really easy diagram. I'll show it to you real easy. Easy to make if you want to do one of these. All this is, and you can do this with any type of connector. Mine are XT90s, of course. So I've got two XT90s, but notice they're flipped. Okay, so I've got a positive on the top and a negative on the bottom. They're flipped. So round over here, round is ground, as Robert likes to say. So round matches up to a positive, and then this positive right here matches up to a negative over here. So that's how they're arranged. And then on the back side, all you do is take another one and you carry that through. So I've got ground here and ground here. So all I did was carry that through ground here and then positive here. So this one is soldered on the bottom row of pins right here. That's soldered on these two. And then the last thing I did was just solder a wire. That's all that is, a wire right there going between those two. And the idea is that gives me a series connection now. That it's an XT90 series connection. You can buy these on Amazon, but the reason I wanted to show it to you is because they're really easy to make. There aren't a lot of diagrams out there on how to do it. And that's all it is. It's one wire going across on the top two pins, and then one connection on the bottom two pins, and that's it. So very simple to make, and they charge like $7 for these on XT90s on Amazon. Then to finish it up, I put a little hot glue in between the connectors, and I put some heat shrink on to seal the deal. So that's one series connector, and I made that for the Slick thinking, well, you know, that's what I want to use on the Slick. But after I did that, Rob goes, hey, you know, you can do it right on the ESC as well. So I wanted to show you guys another way to do a series connection, and I'll show you a way to not screw it up too. It's really actually kind of easy to make one of these and not screw it up. So if you've never done it before, it's kind of a neat thing. Let me zoom the camera in just a little bit. So keep in mind what series connections do is they add your voltage together. Okay, so if you have two batteries that are 25 volts each, in this case, that's what they'll be. They're 6 amp batteries. And I was working earlier, so let me clean this off a little. Okay, so they're 6S batteries, which means 25 volts each. So when I connect these, they'll be in series at 50 volts going into this ESC. So the easy way to make this so you don't mess it up, it's real simple. All you do is take one of your connectors and you connect the positive. See the positive right there? It's the flat side. And you connect that to your positive lead. That's all you got to do. Connect a positive to a positive. That's it. That's that. And then the other thing you do is take a negative and connect it to a negative. So you have two separate ones, two separate connections, a negative one going to your negative terminal and a positive one going to your positive terminal. So once you've done that, positive goes to positive on one, and then on number two, negative goes to negative. And then what happens is you are left with two more plugs or two more terminals that have to be connected. You simply run a wire to the two wires. That's it, to the two terminals that are left. And it will be a positive and negative. That might sound scary if you're not sure. You know, if you're not into doing series connections, that seems really scary to connect a positive to a negative, but trust me, it's the way it works. That's the way these series connections work. So you can see right there, I've got a negative to negative, a black wire running a positive to a negative, not negative to negative. It's positive to negative. Okay. So there you go. Round is ground. That's right. That's what Robert likes to say that. He's the one that first introduced me to that one. And I've remembered it ever since. And then we've got a red lead going into plus. We have a ground lead going into minus, right? A ground lead going into minus. And then the two that are left, you simply connect with a wire. It's the easiest series connection in the world. So if you need to make a series link, that's how you do it. And it works for all kinds of stuff. You can do it. This is the same exact schematic. If you think about it, it's the same thing. And, you know, you just have to get that through your mind that you go positive to negative to positive to negative. That you just have to kind of work through that. And it's also what I did on this thing, although I have to take it apart because the board is only good for 36 volts. So I guess I could do two 4S's, but they won't use XT90. So this series lead, it's a pigtail, will have to come off. What I'll probably wind up doing is going ahead and soldering another battery side to this one. I guess that's battery side. No, that won't work. I'll have to rethink what I'll do with this. Probably has to come apart. But anyway, you can make, this is what a normal series connection would look like if you didn't have it in a standalone little XT90 brick like this or built into the ESC. So this is what they normally look like when you buy them on Amazon. And this works too. The problem with doing this, and the reason I'm trying to get away from this, is because of that inductance issue when it comes to extending battery leads. You really don't want to extend battery leads without adding extra capacitors at as close to the ESC as you can, because of that inductance kind of water hammer effect that it can have. It causes problems for ESCs over the long run. So that's why I'm trying to think of creative ways to connect the batteries without doing an extension like this. And you guys might be looking at this going, but John, you just extended that by 10 inches at least. Well, my plan was to go ahead and add the capacitors to the ESC. So I do have them, and you can resolve the issue by adding a capacitor bank. So I have the capacitors I could have added, and that was the plan with this arrangement, was to add the capacitor bank. So that's it. I just wanted to give you guys a quick look on how to connect things in series. If you've never done it before, I remember the first time I did it, I was like, wait, I'm connecting ground to positive? That made me really nervous. But, you know, it's just how it works. Just how it works. So let me go back and check the comments, and then we'll move on. We are rounding third and heading for home on the content tonight. So let's see. Letting out the smoke can be expensive. Yeah, it can, man. It's kind of a bummer, too. I did it on a frickin' R24D. I was just goofing around one night, messing around with different things, and I flipped the wire. And when I flipped the wire, I had my RX and TX where the plus and minus were supposed to go, and it actually powered up, but man, did it get hot. It was not happy about that, and it wound up smoking it. So that's kind of a bummer. Spark arrest plugs are a must. Yeah, that's right. I love these spark arrest plugs. I use these on just about everything when it comes to XT90s. I love these things. So you'll notice anytime I have a 6S battery with an XT90, I try and use spark arrest. You know, the thing is, on the small ones, like I have some HRB 1800 6Ls, they don't actually have, or at least I haven't found them. So I have not found spark arrest XT60s, but I have found them for the 90s, and I love them. I use those all the time. My favorite. I put it's, and I'll tell you what, man, you really want to you want to live exciting, live on the edge a little bit. Take your 6-cell battery, 25 volt battery, and start cutting your leads off. Just make sure you don't do them both at the same time. Ask me how I know that. So let's see. Sparker, yep, at that voltage. Yes, for sure. Green dot XT90. Put your capacitors in series. No, the capacitors in parallel. When you do that, you just wire them in parallel You put all the positive poles on one side, the negatives on the other, and then you solder them together, and then connect the positive wire to the positive side of your capacitors, your capacitor bank, and then the negative side to the negative side of the bank, and it works. They had them on one stage for XT60, but I haven't seen them, man. I've looked because I actually have some 6L XT60s, the HRB. I have some HRB 1800s that I use for helicopters, and some quads, and they just don't have them. I don't think they make them in XT60 or small. I don't either. Blizzard FPV hit the tip jar. Thanks, man. Well, appreciate that. Showing support from Canada. Love the information. Well, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Love it when you guys hit the tip jar. All helps. Every bit of it helps. So appreciate you. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and flip over and see what's coming up next. That was series connection and the generic wire strippers. We already covered that. So we got ahead of ourselves. All right. Well, I guess that leads me to what's next. So I'm going to flip over to the big camera, and I told you guys I've been working on the slick. So I just wanted to show you a couple of things. I do have to back this out because this stuff is big. The gear is big for this. So let me just too much stuff in the way there. Okay. So here's the ESC, and FYI, if you're not aware of the big airplanes, the way I learned to do these on my 78-inch Edge is that I use an opto ESC, and then I feed the servos and the receiver directly from a 2S 2200. It works great. It's a great little model or mechanism for connecting and powering devices. Now, the reason we do that, though, is because of amperage. The servos, and I'm going to talk about these servos in just a minute, but the amperage that these things will draw is significant. These servos, these high-end servos, digital full-size servos, they can draw up to 8 amps each. So if you have a bunch of those, 4 or 5 of them pulling 3, 4, 5 amps at a time, you can easily overrun a BEC. So the real cool trick is to use an opto ESC. So the ESC has no business or no role in providing amperage for the servo load, right? That's cool. And then where you do get the amperage, though, is from the battery. And at a 2S 2200, let's see, this is a 25C. So that this thing will easily, this little battery cost me about $8, will easily supply 50 amps, which is more than enough for the entire system, right? So the trick to this, though, you have to be very careful. Let me see if I can get my wiring. So I want to show you the wiring for that one. I have it nearby. This is what I was working on ahead of the pilot jam, and I had to stop. You ever been in the middle of a project where you had to stop? So here's what that wiring harness looks like. And the idea is that I'll plug my 2-cell battery into this wiring harness. And the wiring harness, notice that it has multiple connections into the receiver. So I'm using the dual receiver setup. And the reason I'm feeding multiple connections in, these are all just parallel, plus and minus, is because of amperage. You can't just run 15 to 20 amps on these little skinny wires. You got to put some amperage. You got to put some support in there. So I added a little bit of a pigtail that'll go to my battery. And the sole purpose of this harness is to provide current and voltage from the battery to the receiver and the servos. And then, of course, the servos will connect to the receiver or the gyro. In my case, I'm using a gyro, but again, I've got plenty of wires running to the gyro, so no worries there. So I just wanted to show you guys this one from a load perspective. You gotta think about these things, and I still have to think about my load on the gyro because the gyro is what's going to feed the servos. So I have to think about that and make sure that I've got plenty of current carrying capability between that receiver and the gyro. It's not as simple as it looks. So anyway, that's what I was working on ahead of the video. And I just wanted to show you guys that the slick is in play, and I'll be using the 2-cell battery for power, and I've got the big Fly Fun 130 amp. Now the cool thing about these opto ESCs are a lot cheaper than the big full-size ESCs that come with the BEC. So a nice little monetary savings there. And then the other thing I wanted to show you, just to give you some perspective, is this thing. So can I get this whole thing in this is the prop. And this is a 2110 prop. I got this from Innovative Designs, and it's called a badass prop. And that thing is barely in the window, right? Let me zoom out. I want you guys to see the size of this prop, because these things, there's the keyboard. There we go. So here, let me put something in that'll give you a little perspective on what we're dealing with. That's a computer mouse. Let's see. Let me show you. This is funny. There's an SD card. So that'll give you a little bit of perspective of what we're dealing with in terms of size. the wire strippers that I had out earlier. It's a big prop, right? But anyway, yeah, the build is coming along. Remember, this is a Skywing RC, and it's coming along just fine. I like the build so far. One of the pleasant surprises about that Skywing Slick is the spinner is actually carbon fiber. I couldn't believe that. That's like a $25-$30 upgrade, but look, that's a carbon fiber spinner, and that's included in the kit. They don't really, have a line item to charge you for that. It's included in the kit. So I thought that was really nice. I thought that was a really nice thing of them to do, was include that spinner in the kit. So I just wanted you guys know that all the control surfaces are in except the rudder. I still have to add the rudder servo, and I'm going to talk about that for just a minute, and then we're going to wrap the video up. So this is the rudder servo, and I'm going to zoom in. I wanted to kind of give you guys a real quick look. This will be, I'm going to be doing a video on these things. So I wanted to give you a quick look at what's coming here. But this is the pull arrangement for the rudder servo. These are the servo extension arms. They're 3.25. You can see right there, 3.25 inch for the pull arrangement on the rudder servo. And the KST servos are, this is a sponsored video. So the airplane is partially sponsored by KST, who provided me, oops, wrong way, who provided me with these BLS 359s. Now, if you're not aware, I do use these KST servos, not this model. These are more of a fixed wing, but I do use KST servos on my helicopters, and I love them. They've been really good. And one of the first things I noticed about these when I plugged them into the plane and fired them up was that, on digital servos, you normally hear that chatty kind of grindy noise. These are quiet. I'm not sure why they're different than all the other ones I have, but these servos are quiet. They don't make any of that grindy noise, which I think is very cool. So anyway, the KST BLS 359s, these are very strong, 30 kilograms. I think it's 7.4, and I'll be feeding these 8.4. So they're very strong servos, 30 kilograms of torque. It's kilogram-cm, I think is the measurement. But you can check them out on the KST website, BLS 359s. They also have a waterproof version if you're interested in that as well. So if you're not familiar with KST servos for fixed wing, they're out there. And I thought one thing that looked really cool to me was how well the arms from Northwest RC went with the case on the servo. It looks kind of really cool together. I thought it looked good. So that's coming up. Oh, Robert made it. There he is. A little late to the party there, Robert. Oh, let's see. Blizzard FPV showing. So, oh, he hit it again. TV is garbage. This is where it's at. Well, I appreciate that, Blizzard FPV. Thank you. Appreciate you. I haven't watched TV in 30 years. Elias, I'm getting away from it too, man. I really don't watch much TV. I try and look for good YouTube channels, so that's what I'm interested in. Mr. Skyrider says, get a power box. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking I need to try one of those. I'm probably going to do that. I saw your comment on Discord about that. I think I'm going to look into a power box. They do add a little bit of cost, of course, but it might be worth trying it out. Z-Bear says, Pops, Terminal Insanity, I connected a Sonic Model ESC to my Maytech flight controller, left the 5-volt line disconnected as Maytech wiring diagrams show, but all I get is endless ESC beeps. Sounds like maybe you need to calibrate your ESC. That's what I would guess. Thanks, Blizzard. Hey, Robert, post the Discord link. Probably more than that. Looks expensive. Yeah, these are not cheap. The KST servers are not cheap, but, you don't want... This is one of those deals where if you watch the guys who build these planes, you pay attention to what they put in their stuff. This is not the plane that you want cheap in, right? You don't want a cheap servo. You want one that's going to work and be reliable. And, this is one of those areas where I'm a little gun shy as a reviewer, saying you want it to be reliable over the long term because I've never tried them before, right? But that's what the nature of the sponsored video is, right? They send them to me, I try them out, I give you a little feedback, let you know what's good about them, and then I put them in my stuff and I try them out and I see what happens. And that gives me the ability to come back and do the long-term feedback later on. And I do that from time to time. So I will come back and do that. And what I can tell you so far is that in my helicopters that use KST servos, they have yet to let me down. The servos have been flawless. So no complaints about what I've seen in my helicopters, but yeah, they're not cheap. But I got news for you, man. None of the servos in this category or this class are cheap. None of them are. So, by the way, these are also 333 hertz, which works great for the Express LRS PWM receivers, which output 333 hertz, right? Very cool. Very cool. So let's see. When's the slick going to be up for sale for my hanger? Yeah, Hobie, man, he's been picking up on my stuff that I've been the deals I've been selling. He's been snapping them up. He got himself another plane this week too. So he's definitely got RCVR version 2, no doubt about it. I don't know, man. Maybe we'll talk. I got something I'm gonna show before we end the video. I do have one thing I want to share with you guys. 90% of my free time is surfing YouTube, not much TV. Yeah, I'm done with TV. I don't like their messaging. I don't like what they're about. You know, that I don't relate. You know, I don't relate to the stuff they're putting on TV anymore. It just doesn't. I don't relate to it, so I don't watch it. Let's see. Hobie says, awesome news. Robert was thinking about her. Been on my mind. Everything went good, Hobie. Oh, good. She's out and in recovery. Okay, good. Well, that sounds good, Robert. I'll have to hear about that later. It's my first wing. I've never had to calibrate an ESC on quads. Is that normal for? Yes. Yeah, it's very normal. And Robert's right. You should also do it on quads too. In fact, they have these EST plugs that allow you to connect 4 signal wires at one time to let you calibrate your ESCs for your quads, just so you know. Okay, so anyway, yeah, let's go back. What I wanted to do is bring up the pics again. I want to bring this one up, and looks like I have to find my application real quick here. Just hang tight with me. I shut it down to make room for other stuff. Let's see. Where did it go? There it is. I found it. So here we go. I wanted to bring this window up and let you guys get a quick look at this. So I did fly this weekend, and this is one of those, I did one of those for myself kind of days, you know. I told you I was going to slow down a little bit on the day at the field videos, because the honest to God truth is I just don't get the hits. The hits don't show up on those videos. I know you guys will watch them, and I'm not going to quit doing them. I'm just going to not do them quite as often is all. And the idea, hopefully, is to drive more views when I do post them. But I went out and I took the laser and the Game Bird and the Tron and the Kraken. The Kraken needs a little bit of work. I had a tip over on the Kraken where I broke some tail blades. So I did a repair, but I'm not happy with it. It was flying straight, but I heard some noise. I got to strip that one down. So the Kraken's fine. You know, I just have to take it apart and figure out what's making that noise. The Tron has been amazing, having a great time with the Tron. But here's the news for the week, and this is the one that's going to surprise you guys, because Hobie kind of made this comment. He said, when is Slick going to be for sale so I can add it to my hangar? So what I've been doing is you know what asymptotic means? It's a mathematical concept where you drive closer and closer to zero without ever actually touching zero. That's kind of what I've been doing with my airplanes, right? I've been getting, you know, nicer and nicer and nicer planes that I really want to fly all the time without, you know, while searching for nirvana, I guess is the best way to put it. And as I flew the Game Bird, that's the one on the left, I've had that one for a while, a couple months, and I've been flying it quite a bit, and I love it. It's a great airplane. I have a great time flying it. It's amazing in the sky. And then I got the laser, and the first flights on the laser, I thought, man, this thing's going to compete with the Game Bird. And I decided I needed to fly them back to back, because I really wanted to get an idea when I flew them back to back of how they did. And notice in this picture, no side force generator, so neither one of them had a crutch. I didn't have a crutch. And I did fly them back to back, and it turns out I like the laser better. The Game Bird's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing the Game Bird. And I also fall on the sword and say flat out that these planes can outfly me, you know, so not that that's saying a lot, but I'm just saying they can outfly me. So it's not, believe me when I tell you, it's not a criticism of the airframe at all. I'm just telling you, for me, when I put these two planes in the air, I feel more comfortable flying the laser, which is a real surprise, because I love flying the Game Bird and I have a good time with it. But man, that laser and I don't know. It's just, we connect, and I enjoy flying it quite a bit. I think it's got very neutral characteristics. It looks great in the air. They both look great in the air. And I'll keep flying the Game Bird. Don't think for a second I'm going to punt that one. I'm not. But I think the laser just moved into the #1 spot, man. The #1 all-time spot. Literally the best airplane I've flown. And what kills me about that is I just got through saying that about the Game Bird about 3 weeks ago. But that's before I had the laser. So no, the Game Bird's not up for sale yet, buddy. Not yet, not yet. Asymptotic explains the number of motorcycles that it takes to make the folk at the DMV laugh. I know. That's funny. The regulars love the day at the field videos. I know, Hobie, and I will keep doing them. You know, don't mistake what I say. I'm going to keep producing them, but it's a lot of time and effort to do it, and you got to get some kind of return on the effort. So, and you know, honestly, it's good for my mental health every now and then to go out and do some fly days where I'm just not worried about the cameras and I'm just having fun and enjoying it. So we'll, like I said, man, I won't abandon them. I'll keep producing them, but they'll just be a little bit fewer. That's all. All right, so Robert says, in your search of the perfect plane, you're looking for the difference between ooh and ah. I'm actually looking for that space between ooh and ah, maybe the one that makes me say both ooh and ah at the same time, right? It is a search too, you know, it's a search. So I've enjoyed the hunt though, but I got to tell you, man, the laser, it's just stunning. That's a stunningly good plane. They both are in the hands of a super competent pilot. You know, like if we gave these to Oliver, he would, you know, he'd make me embarrassed, you know, to watch what I don't do with the Game Bird. But, you know, I'm just talking about for where I am in my journey, right? Where I am at this point in time. I'm getting along with the laser better. That's all. Again, that is not intended to impugn the Game Bird or any other plane. And they're all amazing. You know, it's just what I like the best, what works for me the best. Let's see. You said the Game Bird was #1, overtook the Millennium Master. Yeah, that's right, man. Hobie knows. And the Millennium Master, I still have that plane and I still love it. But boy, these things are just, they're just they're in a different place. What can I say? They're different. It's a different thing. It's a different thing to be able to do. The Good Life says, for the curious, calibrating the ESCs means powering up with the throttle at 100%, then drop to 0. That's right. So to calibrate an ESC, what you would do is you would turn your radio on and turn the power. Let me do a big camera. Let me switch. I got the big camera. Let me hide the pictures. So here, I got to zoom out just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so to calibrate, what you would do is turn your radio on like this. And here's the thing, make sure if you have a throttle lock, and you should, you need to have a throttle lock, but turn your throttle cut off, right? Make sure that's off, and then put your power all the way up to 100. All right, and once you've done that, you take your ESC and you connect the battery to the ESC. And when you connect it, the ESC should give you some unusual tones. It varies by ESC, but most of the time it'll give you something very discreet, like beep, beep, beep. And then when you hear the beep, 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 you bring your throttle all the way down to 0, and then it'll say beep, 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 and that's it. That means it's calibrated. And from there, you can probably run it, but I like to shut everything off and then reconnect it again. So just wanted to, yeah, for calibrating, that's what you do. You bring the power all the way up, turn your throttle cut off. I recommend, if you've never done it before, make sure that you're not, if you have a prop on, that you're not standing in front of the damn plane. Make sure it's chalked and held down, because the last thing you want to do is make some mistake and have it take off right in front of you. You know, that's bad. So it'd be a better idea to not have any prop at all. But I have calibrated my ESCs, you know, while I've had props on, but you have to put yourself in a safe position to do it. Don't stand in front of it or on the side of it when you do that. You want to make sure that you're off to the side where a prop arc can't hurt you and where your plane won't go flying off, right? And then once you've done that, yeah, you turn the radio on, throttle all the way up, then connect your ESC, and then you'll hear the tones. You bring the throttle down, you'll hear the tones again, and that's it. Some ESCs don't work that way, and for my recommendation for them is get rid of them. They need to follow the standards in the industry, and there's so many great choices out there. I can tell you that all the Hobby Wing stuff, all of the ZTW stuff, even the Skylark stuff, the Detram Skylark ESCs, they all do the same process these days. So for me, if an ESC doesn't do that, I don't use it. I'll get rid of it and get something else. I know that the Castle ESCs don't do that. By the way, they have kind of their own process. So yeah, that's just the way to do it. See, Hobie says constant evolution, beep, beep, like Roadrunner. Yep, beep, 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 beep. That's right. Make sure your trim is centered to, yeah, it's a good idea to make sure your trim is new. You shouldn't be trimming throttle on electric stuff anyway. So yeah, if you were monkeying with trim, get rid of it. I don't use trim on electric. Terminal Insanity says, nice. I was watching the iNav 5 wing on Pavel's channel. He skipped the SE configuration part. I think it's probably is. If you hear fast beepings, that means they see something they don't like. What brand of laser? That is the Extreme Flight Laser V3. Extreme Flight Laser 3 V3. I've been on an Extreme Flight bender lately. Been getting a lot of Extreme Flight planes. In fact, the one that I'm working on right now, the Skywing. That's my first departure from Extreme Flight in quite a while, actually, in terms of the new airframes. So I'm looking forward to it. So far, it's been going together well. If you're interested in that kind of thing, the build has gone together. It's been fine. The hardware has worked out really well. I've enjoyed the build on assembly for the guys who like to build balsa on their own. Whatever, I don't care. But I've been enjoying it. It's been very enjoyable. Everything's been gone together just fine. Fits together. Fit and finish is really good. So I've enjoyed it so far. I don't have much left to do. I'm going to put a rudder in. The motor's on. Obviously, I have to mount the ESC. I'm going to finish that up and put the electronics in. But the servos are in. The only thing left really to do is the rudder, the ESC, and the receiver, and get the prop on and balance it, and I'm done. So if the weather permits, we'll try and get a maiden done this week on Saturday. We'll see. I definitely have time enough to finish it. So it's we'll see if the weather permits, and I also have to see what condition the field's in. I haven't been out to the field after the hurricane, so I'm really not sure what kind of situation we're looking at there. All right, Ben and AJ, but can't get what I want. I know AJ. You know, I don't know. I've watched AJ. I've looked at AJ stuff quite a bit, and I'm still tempted by that. Some of their like the AJ Slick, you know, I kind of want one of those, but the Extreme Flight and Northwest RC, Extreme Flight of course carries Extreme Flight stuff. Northwest carries Extreme Flight and Skywing. The Skywing planes, according to our sources, have made some real improvements in their assembly process. So based on people that are in the know and that talk to the owners, I decided to give Skywing a try. And this is my first Skywing plane. We'll see how it does. I hope it does well. I have high hopes for it because certainly it opens up the options for you. That's for sure. It gives you a lot more options. So David Knutz, is here. Just made it. I'll have to rewatch. Well, yeah, David, you're almost there. Working in Colorado made me late. No, that's all right, man. We'll be here for you to watch it a little later. No worries. Well, on that note, we are at an hour, so I really didn't think tonight was going to go that long. I don't see any other questions or comments that I need to address in the channel, so let me give you a preview and then we'll wrap it up. Preview next week is I'll be looking for edge material because I think, you know, as 2.8, as they refine the bugs and maybe go into RC2, I'm kind of hoping to be able to get some edge material out. I definitely would like to do the 2.8 first look video. I did intend to do that this week, but I got sidetracked with the don't flash it yet video. I thought that was more important to do. So I will be trying to get the 2.8 standalone video done. And then, of course, the Slick Maiden, you know, if everything works well, I'll be getting a Slick Maiden put together. And I'm going to do some kind of standalone video on the servo, although it's kind of hard to do servo videos all on their own. I did find a way to do one last time. I might revisit that strategy again and talk a little bit about that methodology, but we'll see. I do need to put some material together for the KSTs because this is sponsored by KST. So that's it. We'll be here on the rerun. All right, fellas. Well, I will probably hop on Discord in a little while just to say hello, but I got to get some dinner first. So if I'm not there right away, just hang tight. Feel free to pop in and chill out. You guys know where to go. Robert will post the link, I'm sure. William Cox says, good pilot jam. John, thank you, William. Appreciate that. And David, enjoy the rerun and keep an eye on the channel. We should get some flight video this week if weather permits, right? If the field conditions are good enough, we should get some flight footage out there this week on the Slick. That's my hope. And I believe David will be there, and I'm hoping Freddie will show up too. So we could have the Three Stooges at the field together, Larry and Curly. All right, guys, that's all I've got for tonight. I hope you have a great week. Keep your heads down out there if you're on the East Coast looking at Ian coming your way. I hope you all stay safe out there. That's all I've got for tonight. Thanks for joining me on your Thursday night. Take it easy and get out there and fly something.